Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Analogue, a hate story. My voice is a little, not the greatest because I'm slowly but surely getting sick and my throat hurts quite a bit. So, this will probably be shorter than the last couple renditions of this Let's Play because I don't think I can talk for too long without doing more unnecessary damage. So yeah, let's get the show on the road. So we've unlocked some new stories in Block 4 and Block 9, and we've unlocked Mute, and she's a interesting character. She agrees with the statement that is in the helpful notes of Namjoon Yubi. Men are honored, women are abased. At least I think that she does. I can't. She sure seems like she does. Okay, yeah, no. Abased? Seriously? What a complete and utter misrepresentation. In case it wasn't obvious, that's a completely liberal and messed up translation. Yes, it's a common phrase, but that's not what it means. What it really just means is male superiority. That's all. Fine, it's a cliche. That kind of states the obvious. So what? I don't know where she's pulling this women are abased nonsense from. It's stupid. Yeah. She, well, how do I put this in a sense that isn't going to get me in trouble? Hyun A is feminist, Mute isn't, basically. And not to say that feminism is just merely for women, or that it's to overthrow men or anything, but Hyun A just wants to be equal, and Mute, I don't think Mute really cares. I think in her mind, you would have to prove that you are equal. And you really shouldn't have to prove something like that. I don't think. You should just be treated and respected because you're a human being. You should have the same respect as everyone else, same rights as everyone else. And yeah, if you do something wrong, well, you should be punished. Like murder! Don't murder people! We don't want that. But you still deserve the same rights as every other person, regardless of your gender. And biasm isn't very good. Anyway, back to non-conflicting, well, not conflicting, but countering arguments. I don't know, I'm not coming up with a lot of good words today. I'm sick. Letter to Sangmin. Oh dearest brother of mine, as I'm sure you know, it's been 3 years since my husband died. I still mourn him in my heart, of course, and I'm sure I will forever, but the official mourning period's over. You probably also know that the Huang family isn't doing very well right now. Terribly, in fact, and it only got worse when my husband died. It didn't help that we only had daughters, so I don't exactly have a son to look after me. Yeah, 'cause your daughters aren't just going to be bred to look after you, even though you could do that if you really wanted to. Right now, I'm completely at the mercy of his parents, and well, as I said, no son. They only took me in because of that big dowry. They sure never liked me, and it's only gotten worse. Way worse. So I need you to help me out, Min, or they're going to just abandon me. Do you remember that story we read together as a child about that widow who had to turn to begging? I'm sure you remember how it ended. Well, that's going to be me at this rate. Don't worry though, I have a plan. I've talked to my husband's brother about this, and also I managed to discreetly fish some information out of his parents. They'd be willing to get me married to him, and all you need to do is chip in a new dowry. 1.5 times the old one would be enough. Please respond as soon as possible, little brother, because I really need your help here. Love, Sang-hee. So basically she wants money. Okay. Response to sang he. Sister sang he, calm down. They may not be nice, but I'm sure they're not going to kick their son's widow out on the street. Do you have any idea how terrible that would look for them? It would be a huge disgrace on their name. As for remarrying, I'm sorry, but that's a lot of money you're asking. Besides, you know how much remarriage is looked down upon. Chaste widowhood may be a difficult standard to hold yourself to, but you will be honored forever if you can manage it, and if anyone is good enough to live up to that standard, I know it's you, big sister. I wish I could give you an easier way out, but I hope you realize it's for the best that way. I don't know if you can hear this, but there's dogs downstairs in my apartment building that are barking. And if you can hear that, I'm sorry. I really can't do anything about it. They bark at 6 o'clock in the morning, they bark at midnight, and they bark during the day. And it's driving me nuts. So, let's suffer together, shall we? Letter to Sangmin 2. That's a really great title you got there. Oh, generous and benevolent young brother of mine. Wow, you're really slathering on the compliments. I know you think I'm being hysterical and exaggerating. I'm not, I promise. It's funny you mentioned the importance of chaste widowhood, because they're talking about that too. Of course I don't think you've got the same ideas in mind. They're talking about the sort that ends in an honorable suicide. Actually, they've been talking about it a lot. We could of course go with that option, take my own life to honor his memory. Would you like to help me out with that? I'm not really good at either holding knives or tying nooses ever since the arthritis got serious. But if you could help out, that plan could work. If you're too busy to help your sister kill herself, though, you could just do the next best thing and send that dowry. I'm sure somehow you'll manage to figure out a way to find the money. I have faith in you, little brother. Wow! Major blackmail! I remind you again, of course, that appealing to that family's honor is a waste of time. Father married me to a merchant, remember? You're talking about honor, but trust me, I've lived in this house for over 2 decades, and I've looked everywhere, even under the sitting cushions. They just don't have any. So I'm going to ask you once more, little brother. You can either send a new dowry, or failing that, come by with a nice sharp knife. But if you can't bring yourself to do at least one of those things, then my destitution is on your head. Do you think Father would be proud of that? You're the son, you tell me. With love, your sister sang he. That's not with love! You're fucking blackmailing your own life against him. Like, come on. You're a bitch. Like, I get that you're unhappy, but come on. You don't just blackmail your own brother with your life. Ugh. Response to sang he. Sister, you are going to be the death of me, but I won't be the death of you. Fine, I'll figure something out. Tell his parents that I can offer them as much as the old dowry. I'll send a messenger by next week to work out the delivery of it. You're such a woman, do you know that? Manipulative to the core, that's what you are. The death of me, I swear! Sang Min. Yeah, she's a manipulative little shit. But I don't know. That was pretty bad. You don't just throw your life away at someone and be like, give me the money or else I'll die. Like, no! No! The new bruise. Young Suk's wife. Oh no. No. Dearest mother, I really could use your advice. Husband has been working very late into the night recently on some business that he won't even share with me. I understand his reluctance to talk to me about things his superior has sworn him to secrecy on, and that damn child has been keeping me plenty busy anyway, but I still wish he could tell me. Last night he was out even later than normal, and when he finally did return, he had a black eye, his face and hands bloodied. He looked really bad. The sight of that really scared me. Of course you of all people know that I'm hardly squeamish at the sight of blood. It was how hurt he looked. I hurried him to the kitchen and started to clean his wounds. I'll admit my voice wavered when I asked, "Husband, what happened?" He was reluctant to answer and grunted in pain when I convinced him to put ice on his bruised eye. He finally did, and you absolutely can't repeat what he said to me. Do you understand? Not a word of it to anyone, not even to Father. But I truly need advice. I had some questions for the High Magistrate's office. He sent his brother, Smith Sang Q, to answer them. That's the dumb nasty one. My husband trailed off, thinking. I asked him something that he didn't agree with. I had the moral high standing, but he had the physical high standing. His wounds clean, I didn't know what to do, but touched the uninjured part of his face to comfort him. Then he joked. Turns out his argument hurt a lot more than mine. But I could tell underneath that he was truly hurt. What do I do, Mother? How is a woman supposed to respond to such an awful thing happening? I've tried to comfort him as best as I can, but I just don't know what else I can do, Mother. Please, you must have some advice. Oh. Okay, so he just got into a brawl. That's a lot better than what I was thinking. I was thinking like spouse abuse. Oh, I don't really know anything about this Kim Yong-suk. I only knew about men who are actually of some importance. I don't think I can help you there. Sorry. Oh no, does that mean I have to switch to Hyun A? Please tell me that doesn't mean I have to switch to that. I don't know. I don't remember what I showed you and what I haven't showed you. Okay, so I showed you that. Don't need to show you that. Nope. 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 Not picking up on any of those. So... block 5? Oh, wait. No, not block 5. Go in order. Order is good. Block 4. Pack of Idiots, which I've already showed you. Or maybe I didn't. Look, you already know what I think of Smith Kyun Sam. He was a piece of shit. Don't listen to a word he says. That isn't what Smith Sang-jung was like at all. His death was a tragedy, and for a lesser man to make light of it. It's appalling is what it is. Can you believe his nerve? Fine, Sang-jung never married, and he liked to drink maybe a little more than was good for him. But he was a great man. Clever, charming, filial, and respectful. Look, he wasn't perfect. He was as damn close as you could get, though. If you'd been able to talk to him, you'd fall in love for sure. Completely. Do you want to know what he was really like? Don't listen to a single word from the likes of Kyung Sam. Here's a more fitting depiction. I've added some logs that actually do him justice. You should really read them. Okay, finally, got some stuff out of her. Contempt. Does that one get anything out? No. No. Oh, those are all the ones I already went through. Okay. What about block 5? Anything in block 5 that you want to elaborate on? Oh, here we go. So, like, you've talked to her a fair bit, right? What do you think of Hyun A? I don't hate her. Seriously? You can stand her? Did she tell you about the whole mass murder thing, or did she conveniently leave that out? She didn't. No, of course not. I'm sure even that awful bitch is ashamed of what she did. It's probably better if you don't hear it from me, though. I don't think you'd even believe it. Better to ask her yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you an entire block that's full of nothing but questions for her. It might be a little hard to get the whole story out of her, but if you fake sympathy, she'll probably actually believe you. So there you are, a few questions to give to her, drag the truth out of her, then tell me how crazy you think she is. Sweet! We can elaborate on that whole thing. Anything else? Nope, doesn't look like she wants to answer to anything else. Those are Mute's questions. What about block 10? There's only one thing in there from what I remember. Yeah, this thing. That ought to catch your attention. Yeah, here we go. Oh, wow. Queen Rougewa's admonitions to the new bride. That really brings back memories. Okay, so, do you want to know more about the admonitions to the new bride, or Queen Rougewa herself? Let's learn about the queen. Okay, sure. She was kind of more than just my queen. Well, I guess I have to explain my own position for it to make sense. So, like, yeah, I appear to be just a woman like you, but that's just my personal appearance. I'm actually, a computer program. So when I say I was, well, still am, really, in charge of security for the whole ship, I mean it. I was an actual official. I outranked pretty much everyone on the ship, save for the Emperor and, of course, by extension, his primary wife. So while I might have reported directly to the Emperor in theory, and I did with others in the past, Emperor Ru In Ho chose to let that sort of thing go through his wife instead. What this is all getting at is, for all intents and purposes, she was my real mistress, not him. We were pretty close. Well, as close as you can be to your better, anyway. I liked her a lot. She was actually really intelligent for a woman, and was surprisingly tough for a noble. I know, it's a little weird, but trust me, with her, it was pretty okay. She managed to be great while still knowing her place. So, yeah, like I said, I liked her a lot. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. This is my point. I remember those admonitions because I actually helped her write them. I mean, I didn't write a single word or anything, but she asked me for advice. Mostly, she was just modest. So let me see. I really want you to get the right impression of her, you know? She kind of wrote a lot. Well, nobody's perfect. Don't let that cloud your judgment of her, though, alright? I mean, I'm not impressed either, but at least it means you'll be able to see what she was like. Alright, I've got 3 for you to see. Well, one's kind of actually about me, but still, it shows you just how good a person she was. If you want to see the rest of the admonitions, let me know. I can do that too. Yes, I would like to see the rest. Right, so her admonitions then. Well, you're not married, so I guess you wouldn't really know about this, would you? Although, even if you were, it would really depend on what sort of family you managed to marry into, so that's not exactly a guarantee. Anyway, the point is, it's considered fairly typical for a new gentleman's bride to get a series of verses explaining what will be expected of them as a wife, as well as just friendly advice. Well, the reason why these ones aren't written in verse is pretty simple, I guess. It's because the Queen Rougeois had absolutely no ear for it. Honestly, personally, I think that's pretty endearing, but she was really worried about the pale bride since she was a younger, prettier girl for her husband and all, so she wanted to make a really strong impression. I suggested to her that she do what she was good at and just write them in prose, since if she was uneducated as I thought she would be, and she was, it's not like she'd know any better anyway. Well, I guess that backfired a little, since it turned out that she was so uneducated that she didn't actually even know any letters. Whoops. Anyway, here, let me just give you a giant info dump and pass along all the admonitions for you to see yourself. Yay! Info dumps! Holy crap! Filled up the entire block with this. Alright. Confidence. When my husband asked what I thought of the idea of him taking a new wife, I presented him with the weakest of smiles, but said that I thought it was a good idea if he thought so, that I would be happy if a younger woman were to relieve me of the pressure of bringing him a son. I have no doubt that this is the answer he wanted me to give, with a convincing enough expression to go along with it. If there is one thing I am confident in, it is my ability to read exactly what my husband wants to hear. Having heard that the girl he is considering is only 13 years of age, however, it is certain that I can have no confidence in any other thing. He'll take her in a few years right when she's reached marriage age. She will be at the peak of her beauty and won't have matured too much. Doubtlessly, unlike me, she will have no problem delivering the son he needs. Perhaps jealousy is unbecoming of me, but it is pragmatic, too. When we were young, his affections for me were so strong, but now that we are both old, how could I possibly compete with a young bride? Well, that's fair. Marital Admonitions Part 1. To the woman who will marry my husband, as you are doubtlessly aware, it is traditional for a nobleman's mother to write poetic admonitions to be sent to the bride-to-be before she enters the family, explaining the circumstances and offering advice to her. Sadly, your mother-in-law has long since departed, leaving the responsibility in my hands. I never had any such letters sent to me, for reasons which I'll explain soon enough, and I have furthermore studied verse only enough to know that I am unable to write it well. I hope you do not think less of me, young pale bride, for addressing these letters in plain speech instead. Rather, pay attention to my words over my form, and please do not be hasty in erasing these letters after reading, for your own sake. I hope you find the advice and knowledge I will impart on you useful. Yeah, like I said, I suggested she just wrote them in straight prose. As for the reason why she didn't get anything from her own mother-in-law, well, that's pretty complicated. There were kind of some issues in the family there. You'll see what I mean if you read on. Fair enough. Part 2. To the woman who will marry my husband. As you are no doubt aware, the Rue family has an extremely long and proud history. Every man to hold the title Captain and Emperor has always been of our house, and you are here to make sure that countries for another generation. What? And you are here to make sure that that continues for another generation. Okay, because if it was countries, I was like, what? The name goes all the way back to the ancient times. Mythology speaks of a Captain Rue who had control of even the ship's movement through the stars themselves. Such things remain far removed from everyday life, but it is important to understand the significance of the house, and of the title that your first son will eventually come to inherit. Well, if that sounds like a kinda simplistic explanation, you have to understand, it's not really like anyone had the frame of reference to really get space travel. Even I only sort of barely understand it, and I'm the ship computer. Imagine what it must be like for some barely educated woman in a society that doesn't really understand its technology, having only ever lived inside the ship. So her description of the captain and emperor's role is, well, it's a little mythologizing, okay? But it's pretty much accurate, right? I guess. I just don't understand how they got so uneducated about their own technology. Like, what the hell happened? To the woman who will marry my husband. It is an obvious matter that I do have the same family name as my husband. The official story, if you have not already heard it, is that we are cousins, making our marriage improper and less than ideal, but somewhat acceptable given the circumstances. I guess that's to be expected. Incest isn't really all that uncommon when there's only so many of you on a ship. At the time, there were no noble daughters who had not already been promised or given away in marriage, and obviously a girl of any lesser upbringing could not possibly be suitable as a queen. Hence, cousins would simply have to do. Yeah, that is my point. They probably didn't have enough people who produced. Maybe that's how they got stupid, because I heard that it's possible that if you breed too close together in your family, that it's not good for genetics in any way, really. It's good to breed outside of that. Strictly speaking, this is all true. The part about there not being any noble daughters available is not a misrepresentation, and as far as any official genealogy is concerned, the Emperor is the son of my father's brother. What? The Emperor is the son of my father's brother. Oh, okay, I get it now. So the Emperor is your cousin because your father's brother is your uncle. Okay. The part which you may not speak of openly is that he is the old Emperor's son only by adoption. As far as blood goes, my husband is also my brother. As children, we never lived together, and it would, of course, have been strictly improper to have spent any time together at that age. What? Okay. So, you had incest with your brother, but because it was an adoption, what? I would never say anything such as that my husband actually arranged for there to be no noble daughters to marry out of his desire to marry me. That would of course be a rather bold move to accuse an emperor of such. But you may wish to consider what the implications might be if such a thing truly did happen. I leave it to you to decide whether or not such a thing is plausible. All I will say is that despite our marriage being one of necessity, my husband has always been very fond of me. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. What she's suggesting? That is gross and wrong and definitely, well, I don't think a bold move even begins to cover what she's saying. I feel bad saying this. I liked her. We were close. She was a good woman. But my real master was the Emperor, and it would be a disservice to give her a pass on this. She was way over the line here. I think it's damned irresponsible of her to have even considered telling the pale bride that. Why would she even need to know? Anyway, I don't even buy the implication. I don't think it's even true. I don't know if you've noticed, but the Muganagwa's birth rates are, Well, it's not good. They've been bad for generations, but they were just getting worse and worse. Among noble families, you weren't even at replacement rate anymore. I have no idea why. Nobody really ever wanted to acknowledge it. So what I'm saying is, even ignoring the facts that he wanted, and her suggestion is just wrong, I don't think the Emperor would have to contrive it so that there weren't any noble daughters of proper age. The simple fact of the matter is, that sort of incest ended up being necessary, and apparently didn't help since even she couldn't deliver a son anyway. No awful and inappropriate theories are necessary. Well, the birth rates probably went down because this sort of shit had to happen. Not to mention, you're on a ship and there's probably not a whole lot of space. So, who knows, maybe they killed off some kids that were born because there was too many being born, and then this shit had to happen because past shit wasn't dealt with properly. I don't know, but that's just... Okay. To the woman who will marry my husband, as for responsibilities, your burden will be quite light. You will, of course, be expected to be the model of feminine virtue, but truthfully, I do not expect you will have very much trouble with this. So long as you keep your head down, avoid scandal, and keep quiet, that will more than suffice. As far as the day-to-day is concerned, you will have nothing to concern yourself with, as this is the royal family you are marrying into. As queen, I run the management of the house's affairs and will not require any assistance from you in that regard. As part of a royal concubine's demonstration of modesty, you will have to share my own personal servant, and will not have one of your own. While you will not have to be responsible for all housework, be modest and do not remain idle at her expense. You are expected to be as unseen as the servants, and to be voiceful only in the most moderation. Do not speak harshly to your servant, and be appreciative of what she does, and not incompassionate. Your one sole responsibility will be spending as much time with the Emperor as it takes to produce a son. Ah, ew. After you give birth, you will not need to worry about raising him. I will be there to make sure that is all arranged for. Simply make our husband happy, keep out of sight, and give him a son, and you'll have no more to worry yourself with. Ew, she's like a surrogate mom, except she's forced to live in the house and be a part of the family, but really not a part of the family, because you're supposed to be like a servant. That's just gross. Well, I guess I'll grant the pale bride one thing. You never had to worry about her speaking out of turn. Really, at the time she seemed like the perfectly virtuous wife right up until she snapped at the end. I know, how do you even reconcile that, right? How can someone seem so close to being the pinnacle of feminine virtue, then turn out to be so completely messed up? I still don't get it. Not even slightly. Mute. She was from the past, where they were actually smart and knew things. And then she was thrown into this chaos and forced to deal with it because nobody understood. Because she was the only one left from the past. What do you expect? Like, come on. Part 5. To the woman who will marry my husband. The virtues which you are expected to demonstrate are simply those expected of any woman, and given your noble upbringing, I will not condescend to treat you as if you do not already know them quite well. You are expected to be quiet and obedient, to me as well as obviously to our husband. Perchance you are scolded, trust my judgment as your elder, I will never act out of anger or spite. If scolded by our husband, always respond with a smile, for your relationship with him must always be warm, and he is a wise man. I do not, however, anticipate such things will be problems. He told me of the interview in which he spoke to you, and had nothing to report at all on your manner of speech, so I trust it was entirely proper and polite. In light of that, I will say nothing further of the matter. As far as ritual obligations go, you have none, save for following in my lead. Both your mother and father-in-law are long dead, so you have no further obligations to them. I had trouble adjusting at first, but I anticipate nothing you could be surprised by. That's... okay. To the woman who will marry my husband. I will not tell you to avoid court politics entirely, so long as you do not cause trouble, but I will suggest that you simply watch from a distance. The temptation may exist to meddle, especially if you ever talk to the artificial girl Mute, who lives inside our computer. She is a gossip and a friend of the Smith noble family, and is responsible for revealing much of what they try to keep hidden. She may seem fickle, but she does belong to the house of Rue first and foremost, and is quite loyal. Nevertheless, meddling is not in your best interests. Do not play politics, not only for our sake, or for the sake of being a virtuous wife, but for the sake of your own family as well. They will receive favor not through any scheming on your part, but through our husband's will. Entertain yourself with gossip if you wish, so long as you keep quiet about it, but stay out of politics. In the end, you will manage to go much farther if you rely only on rewards for being a good wife. She's right in what she instructed the pale bride, but man, I don't really agree with her assertion there. I wasn't a gossip. Look, yeah, I'm a social creature, of course, that's my job. I'm glad that my mistress valued me, but I don't really like the way she's characterizing me as just being some chattery, gossiping woman. I was always way better than that. I wish she'd have realized it. Dude, you wanted to tell me scandalous things about the Smith family right as we met. And you had a real expression to yourself when you were doing that, so I don't believe that for a second. The pale bride's marriage. My fear of the pale bride, it seems, was unfounded. In my letters to her I wrote that I was not jealous, a lie, of course. As queen, it is true that I have authority over any of my husband's other wives, but that authority does certainly not extend to his affections, especially since she is a beautiful woman of only 15 years and I am a withered old lady 20 years her senior. Dude, being in your 20s or 30s really isn't all that bad. You're not old. I would be a fool not to be jealous. And yet I am not. Until she officially married my husband, I had only seen her briefly at the formal interview. Aside from her beauty, she had made hardly any impression, but now she was living in my house, and I have seen more of her while she is not busy attending to the Emperor, and I realize now I have no cause for jealousy that is any fault of hers. She hasn't spoken a single word to me and only looks at me from a distance. At first I mistook this for arrogance, as though she thought me unworthy of approaching. I realized soon that is not so. I sense no smugness in her eyes, nor do I see happiness, nor sadness, nor anything else. She is afraid of me, not the sort of fear that would show in her eyes, the sort of fear that would paralyze or leave her on edge. It is hardly noticeable at all, and yet I can tell. Her fear is that of resignation, the sort of fear where one simply waits for what one believes inevitable, whatever it is that she thinks I will do to her. She is not afraid that I will be jealous. She knows it, and is simply waiting for the consequences. I cannot be jealous of a woman like that. I feel for her. I want her to feel welcome. I want to give her the hope she has clearly lost back. It is not out of jealousy that I say I earnestly want her to understand how lucky she is. When last I saw her, I took her aside and said, "Please, you do not have to fear me. If you ever wish to talk to me, please, do find me." She said nothing, but she did smile a little. I have seen her smile before, but only in a hollow way, where the mouth moves but no emotion stirs in the eyes. This was not that kind. I can hardly say what the twinkle in her eyes meant, but at least I don't think it was resignation. I do hope she talks to me soon, for her own sake. She might have just found a friend. That's a good thing. I hope. What are Mute's questions anyway? I'm curious. Question 1. How are you doing? How do you feel about me? Why don't you treat me with more respect? What do you really look like? What? How old are you? What's going on? So, I'm sure you've noticed all this static on the line and are wondering what's going on, right? I'm going to tell you something really bad. I need you to promise me you're not going to panic, okay? Oh no, is it the reactor? Great. Just keep it together. We'll be okay if you don't get emotional, but... well, right now we're in the middle of a nuclear fission reactor meltdown. I'm sure you don't know what that means, and it's okay. You don't have to worry your pretty little head with the details. The bottom line here is that if it doesn't get shut down soon, there is going to be a massive, massive explosion. Well then. Right, well, ordinarily this would be something you'd want to get a man to do, but it's okay. I'm sure you'll be able to pull through just fine. I have the utmost confidence in you. You've got 20 minutes until the reactor goes all up, killing both of us, permanently. Clock starts now. I'm going to walk you through shutting it down. This might be a little bit hard, but you're a clever girl. I have faith in you. First thing we're going to try doing is just simply using the disable action. I don't think this will work, mind you, but we never know. The ship's been in such a state of disrepair and non-maintenance it's probably going to be really complicated. Still, try that for me, will you? Drop down to the terminal and just try shutting down the reactor directly. Oh, jeez. Help. Fuck, what was I supposed to do? Mute. Tell me again. Tell me again. Tell me again. Shut down the reactor directly. Okay. Power control. List. Jesus. God damn it. Reactor. Emergency override control over the reactor system. Enable. Reactor disable. Disabling reactor now will permanently terminate your connection. Are you sure you want to continue? No. No. Ah. Man, I'm not good at shit like this. Mute. Disable action. Whoa, self-repetition there. Did you already try doing that? Yes! Oh, and it didn't work, of course. Don't worry, that was to be expected. There's nothing to worry about just yet. Of course it couldn't be that simple. I'm not sure what's causing the technical problem. I'm going to go do an account of everything and see if I can't figure it out myself. Hold on for a moment, please. Oh, of course, that figures. I found the problem, and it's pretty bad, I'm afraid. In simple terms, there's two power systems on the ship. One is the nuclear reactor, which is currently running and about to explode. The second is called the power storage system. It doesn't generate anything, it's just a battery. When the ship is in low power mode, it's supposed to run off the power storage system exclusively, and that should be enough. The problem is the primary battery has been completely drained. I can't tell why. The system logs were incorrectly filed by a certain crazy bitch. But anyway, the point is that battery is dead. So that's why you are getting an error. If you shut down the reactor now, there's nothing to fall back on and everything goes down forever. Don't worry though, there's a secondary battery. If we switch to that, everything will be fine. All you have to do is tell the power storage system to use the secondary battery instead. Then you'll be able to disable the reactor safely. Ah! I hate this part. I hate this part. Help. Power control. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Oh, man. There we go. Switch battery and switch battery. Switch battery. Control override a power storage system. Switch battery new. We'll use primary battery. Switch battery Yes! Just switch the battery! Yes! Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. Seals maintaining proper atmosphere. Disable docking. Oh man, I hate this part. I hate this part a lot. Disable docking. Ah! Fucking... I can't scroll up either. Action. Oh. Power control. Disable docking. Power control list, because I can't see the rest of it. Power control. Disable gravity. I don't need that. Power control. Disable rail. Power control. Disable waste. What else isn't needed? PSS. Switch battery enabled. Fuck. Power control. Disable what else doesn't need to be used? Core 5. Ugh, fuck. At 10 minutes. Man. I need 5 and 6 disabled. Disable core 5. Disable core 6. PSS. PSS. Oh, fucking. Fuck. Power control list. I need to get rid of one other thing. Can I get... Yeah, communications. I can get rid of communications. Power control. Disable. Communications. No! I need that. Fuck. 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 What? Okay. No. PSS. Switch. Battery. You may now safely disable the reactor. 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 Disable. Yes. Oh jeez. Come on. Come on. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Remaining subsystems transferred to power supply system. Now what? Now what do I do? Mute! Nice, well done. You've shut down the reactor successfully. It's now off and we're running completely off the power storage system. We're not done yet though. The reactor is off, but before you managed to do that, well, it already hit critical temperature. It's not getting any hotter, but unfortunately it's not getting any cooler either, and I'm starting to suffer some pretty serious damage from the heat. Oh, this is really, really bad. I'm sorry, I can't. Half my processors just aren't even responding. I can't think of a solution. I've let you down. I'm so sorry. I've no idea what to do here. Please, though, you have to think of some way to get rid of all the excess heat. I don't know what, but you have to do something before the damage becomes permanent. Please, don't let me die here. I have 6 minutes to save you. Oh, jeez. I don't think that did it. I figured it out! Okay, here's what you can do. First, make sure the bulkhead seals are in place, then enable the emergency life support to fill the empty chambers around the reactor with air. Next, disable the bulkhead seals to vent all the heated air into space. That should, if I've done the math right, that should be enough to do it. Please hurry though, there isn't much time. Yeah, there's fucking 5 minutes! So I enabled the bulkheads. Power control. Enable life support. Power control list. I don't have time for this. Fuck, I typed it in wrong. That's why it didn't work. Come on. Power control. Enable life support. quit. Mute! I figured it out. Here's what you can do. First, make sure the bulkhead seals are in place, then enable the emergency life support to fill the empty chambers around the reactor with air. Next, disable the bulkhead seals to vent all that heated air into space. That should... Oh, fuck, I have 4 minutes to figure out how to do that. Oh, God. Oh, man. Help. Enable bulkheads? Power control. Emergency controls of critical subsystems. Ah, really? Multiple things could be enabled and disabled in a single line. Both of them are already enabled, so then what do I do? Disable bulkheads. Power control. Disable bulkheads. Atmosphere is being vented into space. I did it. You did it! You did it! You saved my life. You have my deepest and sincerest gratitude. Really, if it weren't for you, I'd be dead right now. I owe you my life. Thank you. If you want to talk for a little bit before we get back to business, that'd be quite alright with me. Wow, nothing like a near brush with death, huh? Except, I need to go back and see if I can enable Hune A. There is not enough power to enable that subsystem. Fuck. What do I do then? That really was a close call. Well, so you know, when the timer was getting close near the end, I kinda got to thinking. Just that, you know, the whole ship is dead. Once you're gone, it's going to be pretty eventful and pretty lonely. Like, uneventful? That's okay, I don't mind that. I mean, uneventful means that things are secure, so I'm programmed to feel at ease when that's the case. So yeah, uneventful I can deal with by design. But lonely? Yes, I'm just an AI, but I'm programmed like a woman. I like to talk, okay? I mean, I'm sure you've noticed. And you know what that's like. How do you do it? How do you cope with being all on your own? So yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. It's just kinda depressing. But hey, I'm still alive. That's pretty good, right? Let me tell you, I'll take purposeless and alive over the alternative any day. Okay, wow, I've just been rambling there about myself. I kinda hate it when other people do that. I'll knock it off now. So anyway, what were we talking about? We were talking about how I feel really bad about killing off Hune A so that I could save you. That's what we were talking about. But what do? I can't do anything with these now. I was supposed to ask her, how do you feel about Mute? And I was supposed to ask her, why couldn't you just settle for a happy marriage? I was supposed to ask her, did you ever have any friends? And I was supposed to ask her, why did you kill all those people? So now I'll never know! What am I supposed to do now? Okay, so what is it that you want to know about? Why don't you show me something and I'll see what I can find for you, okay? I want you to find me a way to bring back Hune A, you son of a bitch! God! I'm getting a drink of water. Okay. After getting a drink of water, I've realized something. I fucked up with not decrypting the block for Hune A, and now I fucked up even worse by completely disabling her for the rest of time. Ugh, I'm a monster. And I don't know how to fix it. Block 3. Visit from Sang-jun. My husband was out of the house, as he usually is during the day, so our servant fetched me instead to tell me that someone was at the door. I was in the middle of a conversation with Mute, but had no idea how I was expected to respond to that. What do? I asked her. She just responded in that usual shocking crass manner of hers. Gee, I don't know. You could try answering the door, maybe? Just a thought, of course. So I excused her and went to that, but with a great degree of nervousness. I had never done this before. At the door was my youngest brother-in-law, Sang-jun, who I had only met a few times before, although husband mentioned him often enough, usually in the same breath as calling him an irresponsible drunk. Seeing him did nothing short of compound my anxieties. Hello, sir, I stammered. So Jin, he responds with unbelievable volume. It's great to see you again. Hope you don't mind me dropping... Hope you don't mind me dropping by unannounced. I just figured I haven't seen my new niece yet, and it's been forever since I've been in the old house. So, well, I thought I'd stop by, say hello to your daughter. I don't know. Sorry, my husband isn't home right now. Maybe you should come back later, I said, shifting uncomfortably. Oh, please, be a good girl, let me come see her. I'm really not here for your husband. This was awkward. I didn't exactly want to turn away my brother-in-law, especially if he just wanted to see baby Min-hee, but this was hardly proper. It really wouldn't be my place. Sorry, you'll have to wait until my husband gets back, I trailed off. He rolled his eyes, then smiled at me. Really? Come now, you're a smarter woman than that, he said, and put his hand on my shoulder. This had now moved on to incredibly uncomfortable. You really value his authority that much? He's my husband, I responded. What else could I say? He replied, Wow, no wonder he walks all over you if that's how you treat him. You have got a lot to learn about dealing with men, dear Sojin, especially my brother. But come on now, this is a bad conversation for a doorway. Can't I see my niece? I hear she's rather adorable. I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said, trying to be as bold as I could. I'm going to have to go now. Sorry, I started to close the door on him. All right, I understand. I'll talk to him myself. Later. Don't worry. I won't mention this visit. Do say hello to her mother for me, though, he said, and left. My heart nearly skipped a beat when he said those words. I stood there in the doorway for a good while, stunned. Even now I still have much to think about, not simply his knowledge of our child's true mother, a matter of great secrecy, but also of what he said about my husband. Perhaps his words were true. Man, reading that, I just can't believe that's her. She used to be so timid. Thinking of me as having a shocking crass manner, or being afraid of her brother-in-law at the door, well, it's all what expected from her at the time. She just changed a whole lot as she got older. Well, honestly, maybe not as much as I thought. She might have gotten bolder behind her husband's back, but in front of him, that never really changed much. Well, what do you think? Should she have listened to Sang-jun about being less deferential to her husband? Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you would say that. You're not only outside of home, you're off in the middle of space. So don't you dare look down on her for that. Don't you dare. I mean, I'm not judging. If you really think that's an appropriate thing for a woman to do, then, well, whatever. But look, Sojin wasn't like you. She did understand her place, ultimately, and she was interested in being a good wife. Either way, well, she did change in some ways. Would you like me to show you what I'm talking about there? I mean, just as a warning, it's some pretty scandalous stuff she was involved in. Do you want to see? Okay then. Oh, this isn't for the faint of heart, but I think you'll see what I mean. I'm warning you right now, it does get a little bit gross, but, well, wow, just see it for yourself. It's definitely a pretty big fall for her. You'll see what I mean soon enough. I don't think I ever saw any of this in the last time I played this. Drank himself to death. As horrible as it is to say, I don't think anyone was really surprised when brother-in-law Sang-jun was found dead. Nobody asked how, nor has anyone so much as mentioned the word drinking in my presence since. Even the ordinarily extremely candid Mute has been entirely somber. Mother-in-law, I understand why she's been taking it so hard, and have been working harder to stay well out of her way while the funeral preparations are being settled. But Mute? I had no idea they were so close, yet in our last conversation I could have sworn she was on the verge of tears. I had never seen such a reaction from her in all my time here. As for myself, I have an awful confession I can make to no one. I've put on a somber face, acting as though I'm as sad as the rest, since that is of course what is expected, but it pains me to admit that I'm not. It is not as if I don't find it tragic, and I feel bad for thinking this, but I didn't know him at all. How could I possibly bring myself to feel as upset as I'm expected to be? Well, you've seen most everything about the Smith family now, except the most scandalous stuff. I'm sort of wondering what you think of their fall. Well, they kinda had it coming. Yeah, it's fair enough. I sure hope it's not just because you're perversely entertained by watching great men fall, though. Anyone could see it coming, but it's still utterly wrong. Show a little respect. Anyway, regardless of whether you think it should have happened or not, it was a pretty terrible thing to happen to what used to be the greatest noble family. And certainly they didn't deserve to be first brought down by the Kim family, then murdered by the Kim daughter. Maybe it's... I don't want to say that Sang Jung was lucky. That's not true. If he was around, maybe things would have turned out better. He always had a way of making things perfect. Still, I'd rather he be killed by his own habit than by that girl. He deserved better than what he got, but it would have been even worse if not for that, is I guess what I'm saying. I hadn't really thought about it that way before. Really, were he around, that's totally what he'd say. Practically imagine his voice even. The drink'll inevitably kill you, and woman'll inevitably kill you, so I'd rather take the one that isn't always bitter. Or something like that. Yeah. Well anyway, that's enough of all that. Would you like to see some more of the scandalous stuff from the Smith family now? Sure. Okay then. Well, this isn't for the faint of heart, but you're going to love this. You will not believe what Smith Sangman's wife was doing behind his back. I'm warning you right now. It does get a little bit gross, but, well, wow. Just see it for yourself. You warned me of that the last time. Of course I was on the verge of tears. He meant a lot to me. I mean, you know, I'm just a computer. He wasn't family or anything, and it's not like I have the body for that kind of relationship. But still, he was the closest thing I had to a husband. We had a really close relationship. I really did love him. I definitely can't forgive her for not sincerely mourning his death, or not taking it seriously. He was a great man. I'm just disappointed in her. It really is an awful confession. He really did deserve much better. So much better. Well, you can't get mad at someone who can't possibly care for someone they didn't know all that much about. Because that's just what happens. Oh hey, we have a block too. I think this is a new one. More water to help with my damn throat. Ugh. Unsent Letter 1. When I first saw you, bringing my husband home in the late hours of the night, I was jealous. All I could think of was my daughter, and the first courtesan he'd had an affair with 9 years ago. With every brief glimpse of you that I saw as you passed through our home, my heart burned a little, as if you embodied every single fault of my farce of a marriage. I will never send this letter, because I know how ridiculous it sounds. For weeks, I, a noble wife, could be jealous of a poor courtesan, but you are young and beautiful, full of energy and grace. I am none of these things. Only after you had been entertaining him for a month did I start to realize what I was really feeling. True, I was jealous, but not of you for having my husband. I was jealous of my husband for having the affections of a girl so pretty as you. Yay! LGBT! I love how this game just brings up so many different issues, including this one. Because it has so much to talk about and so much to comment on, and I really, really enjoy it for that. Because it's bringing up so many good points. These are such ridiculous thoughts for a woman to have, I know, and even more ridiculous still is the way they have overwhelmed me. I used to dread my husband bringing his courtesans home with him. Now I look forward to your nights together. Okay, now that's a little bit weird. I'll admit that. Because I don't quite understand that. Because why would... Well, then again, I guess she doesn't have to spend time with her husband then, if you do. If the courtesan does, but... I don't know, I'm looking at it in a very perverted way where she would, like, peek in on them as they're doing it and get, like, I don't know, horny from it? I don't know. How could I not, when it means that I am treated to the sight of your bashful face in the morning? When we exchange glances, you hide behind your long hair with so much cuteness and grace my eyes can't help but wander, to admire the way it rests on your breasts, to see your clothes draped loosely over your hips. I cannot help myself from admiring your body as you try to hide from me. It is ridiculous to be so preoccupied with such thoughts, and perhaps I was better off having not ever realized them. Nevertheless, even though I may be as much of a woman as you are, I find myself longing for the same affections that you shower my husband with. There is more to it than that. I would like to truly get to know you better. I like to imagine that we have much in common, aside from the obvious. When I see you hiding in the corridor on those mornings, I imagine wrapping my own arms around those lovely hips, sharing long conversations about our tribulations in life, discovering just how much alike we are. And perhaps, I like to imagine we could share more than that. I've been married for 10 years to a man who has never paid me any attention for 9 of them. Perhaps my old age has made me bold, but I want more. The next time I see you, I promise I will say something, for in all my 26 years I have never felt a longing for anything this intensely. I don't care how wrong it is, as a wife and as a woman. I want you, Hannah. I bet that wasn't what you were expecting from a noble wife, was it? I still have a hard time believing that she was really capable of sinking to that. But, well, it totally does get worse. I'll show you. Just be warned, it's pretty depraved stuff. But that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. To my lovely Sojin, you made it so easy, you know that? I've always wanted to be seduced. The more I learned about it, the better I got at it, the more I thought about how lucky men are, that they'll get to be on the receiving end of it. It's always seemed like it would be so much fun. But that wasn't why I dropped my guard in front of you, by the way. I was actually really wary the whole time you were serving me breakfast. Do you know what I first thought? I thought maybe you were trying to poison me. I mean, not seriously, of course, but it crossed my mind. So no, I really was guarded, until you started talking. You know what it was that got me? Do tell me, how hard is it studying to be a courtesan? I answered modestly, oh, you know, there's nothing to learn. You just have it or you don't. The answer that any man would expect. But you? You wouldn't have any of that. You said, please don't lie. I actually want to know. It takes years, does it not? That must be intense for a girl of your age. Then you leaned in. I started to blab about how it kind of is pretty intense, and I only realized an hour later that I was staring into your eyes, telling you profoundly no less about my whole life story. Our faces were barely a foot apart by the time I noticed what you'd done. And that was how you caught me totally off guard. I had no idea what to do. Should I touch you? What's the right body language in that situation? Was I even interpreting you right, or was it just all in my head? Not even the slightest clue. You had me good. And you played it so well. You know just the right moment to pull back and tell me to go on my way, but in a way that left me wandering. So Jin, you made it so easy. Returning home, my heart was so afluttered, my feelings so confused, and all I could think about was you. You, the bored old wife of my patron, actually managed to seduce me, just like that. I'd always wanted to know that feeling, and you know, it was everything I dreamed it'd be. You want more from that whore? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Here you go. This one in particular is just... wow. Really wow. Yeah, it's super depraved, but man, it's also just... what a 16-year-old. Here, read it for yourself. Okay. What about Sojin? How anyone can manage this, I do not know. Whenever I am with you, I feel as though there's so much pressure to be perfect, to not let you down, as if every hour of our being together is like a marriage interview with an emperor. And yet I can't stand it when you're gone. All I can think of all day is how I could hold your attention for next time. The night you snuck over knowing my husband was out I was so terrified. You just suddenly appeared on my doorstep, your face veiled as if you were a noblewoman, and I knew I could hardly turn you away. Do you know why? For I immediately went to make you tea, making you wait in the other room, to give me a chance to calm my nerves. I was surprised to realize you were just as nervous as I, so I knew I could take advantage of that. I put both cups on the same side of the table and sat cross-legged. Come, I said, sit with me, and gestured. You were so graceful in sitting on my lap, your small body just the right size, and I saw that even you couldn't help but blush. and so we drank tea together. But halfway through, you put your cup back down and turned around, so you were facing me, our heads just inches apart. You whispered, "Forget about the tea," and clasping my free hand, your tiny fingers intertwined with mine, you kissed me, so softly. Up until that point I had been so worried trying to figure out what I should do. Was I playing the man's role, or were you? But after smelling the scent of your breath and tasting the sweetness of your lips, how could I possibly ignore the passion stirring enough to care about such things? I put down my cup and took you by the chin, gently pushing you away. Oh, what longing and uncertainty was in your eyes at that moment, beautiful Hannah. I smiled as I stared back on them, intoxicated with the fact that I had you now literally under my thumb. I unclasped your hands and undid the bow of your blouse, watching your lips quiver as I pulled open the flap covering your small breasts. Running my fingers along the edge, I admired just how soft they were, so perfectly shaped. Are you sure?" you started to ask, but I silenced you with that kiss you were so eager for. You shivered as I enjoyed the taste of your mouth, and were so very anxious when I stopped and turned you back around once more. "Will you sing for me?" I whispered into your ear. You nodded and referred to your trade and said, I'd love to write you a poem, Sojin." I responded, putting my hand up your skirt. "Your poetry is beautiful, but hardly what I meant." Then I clasped your breast with my spare hand, delved deep with the other, and held you so very tight while I admired the loveliness of your voice. Yeah, that one is just... ugh, wow. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. Well, we can tell Mute's homophobic when... I think it's rather sweet, even though I didn't need to know the more intimate parts at the end. Just 'cause that's a little personal to be delving into. You know what the first thing they teach you about this role is? Of course you do. I told you all about it. The first thing they teach you is to never fall in love. Nobody'd ever actually say make sure you're in control, but that's the only way it'll ever work well. I'm supposed to be the one making people fall for me. Love is for men stupid enough to buy me out from the Emperor, not for me personally. I know exactly how you managed to do it, but Sojin, you got me all the same. You know, they teach us poetry because if you appeal to men's vanity and seem a little bit clever, it's a good way to hold on to them, get them to keep paying, which the flattering kind sincerely never really factors too much. With the flattering kind, sincerity never flatters. Never really factors too much. An abandoned line from the one I've been trying to write for you. You grabbed my heart just as tightly as you grabbed my breast. Too trite. Way too trite. It's true, but I'm not going to dump such a lousy metaphor on you. For you, you absolutely deserve sincerity. It has nothing to do with vanity and everything to do with the fact that I really do totally love you. It's not sexual. I mean, it is sexual too. I still get hot thinking of how you had your way with me and how I want to return the favor. But it's not just that. It's that you understand me, that you listen to me. I can pour my heart out in front of you. I can cry in front of you, and you get it. You don't feel bad. You don't feel pity. You don't use it as an excuse to manhandle me. You just get it, and comfort me by being there and listening. I love you, Sojin. I'm not supposed to, but I really do. Oh, I love you. Wow. Just... wow. You know, I kind of feel pity for her. She probably really did think that actually was love. Which is just... come on, how uneducated can you be? Anyway, I guess you want to see more now, right? That's really just the shocking details you've seen so far. Here's the part where things actually get scandalous. I've added 3 more entries. It is love, you homophobic little shit. Like, come on. It's perfectly okay. My art is... water. Delicious water. Anyhow, my art is that of lies and lying, and of both I have much practice. I've said to men I love you falsely. I've suffered pain but smiled in pleasure. But the hardest lie I've ever told was that I could live without you. Man, how's that for verse? Really, it's not the translation, I assure you. It's not exactly any better in the original Korean. Can you believe that was actually written by someone who had studied poetry for years? Seriously. Well, it's not terrible. Well, that's fine and all, I guess, but you're a woman. I wouldn't expect you to know much about good verse. Hey! Fuck you! I'm trying to be an English major, you know? Real poetry is not forced like that. It's from the heart. It's sincere, not vulgar trash. That is sincere! It may be directed towards another woman, but that doesn't mean it's not sincere. You homophobic piece of shit. I don't know much about the subject, but I mean, come on. There's a reason why men's poetry is what gets studied and taught, and women's poetry is just used for seduction. You need real sincerity. You need someone who actually understands love. Now you're just saying that women don't understand love. What is wrong with you? It's titillating, sure, but it's crap. Anyway, though, I guess you want to see the other poem that whore wrote for her? Yes, because I'm going to spite you. Right, of course. Here, have it. Fair warning, though, it's pretty gross, even more than probably anything else here you've read. Hey! Granted, it's a little intimate for my tastes, because I don't really like to delve into the sexual lives of others, but come on! That's all the whore's poetry for Sojin. She didn't seem to write down the ones she did for anyone else, so that's all you can get. Well, good. I don't want to read those ones, because those ones are just... they're not true. Pretty flower. Pretty flower, who could plant you, then abandon you in your bed? Each day I stop to admire your aroma. Will your gardener mind? Each night I pluck my own petals, but dream of yours in bloom. Oh. Yeah, that's a little sexual. Man, how's that for verse? Really, it's not the translation, I assure you. It's not exactly any better in the original Korean. Can you believe that was actually written by someone who had studied poetry for years? Seriously. Stop making fun, you homophobic piece of shit. It was only after I finally started to become comfortable with you, confident that you really were mine, and that I didn't have to work to impress you, that things got complicated. My husband had left for the day, and you were still lingering, having spent the night with him, but it was for me that you had a new love poem, and I undressed you while you sang it. When you were done, you clung to me, stripping me in turn, while I simply kissed you and ran my hands from your tiny waist to your smooth ankles. And soon enough, we were both naked. At first I'd felt so uncomfortable exposing my body like that to you, as if you'd see it, then finally realize how old I am, but you never did seem to mind, not as you placed soft kisses on my breasts, nor as you straddled me with your legs around my waist and arms around my neck. So entranced was I at that moment that I never heard the footsteps outside. Oh. We had just started to kiss when the door suddenly opened. What a scene to walk into! There my husband was, in the doorway, his courtesan and wife naked together, mouths still connected by a strand. For a moment nobody said anything. In that time I felt terror as never before in my life. Sang-min is not a gentleman, and while Sang-min is not a gentleman, and while he'd hardly ever raised his hand to me, I was still overwhelmed with horror that he might hurt me, or even worse, that he would hurt you. I had seduced you, but in that moment I realized if he did try, there was nothing I could do to protect you. But just as we were stammering our "I'm sorry, sirs," he just laughed, and laughed. Well, he said, ogling us with that cold stare of his, I'm certainly paying you enough for two. Then he walked over and raised his hand, and I stared in terror, but all he did was pat you on the head as though you were a child. I don't know what she told you, but you don't have to pay any attention to her. Easier to just ignore her, really. All you could do was start to stammer. I wanted to. We were both so afraid, but he just laughed and shrugged. Whatever, he said as he passed through the other door. Neither of us knew what to do, other than climb off each other and scramble to cover ourselves back up. While we both clumsily tried to dress ourselves, Sang-min walked back through the room once more, carrying his satchel. He'd forgotten it for work, I suppose. Don't have to stop on my account. If you asked permission, you can do whatever the hell you want. If you ask permission, you can do whatever the hell you want, he said. Then he laughed again. Don't know what you think you're even going to do, though. Aren't you two missing something? I wish he had struck me instead. It would have hurt me far less than what he said, or what you had to watch me do. Just imagine that scene, her and the whore pleading with her husband, being mocked like that. What do you make of that? Shit, both of these answers, I don't know if they're good ones. I want to pick the one that's not homophobic. And this one seems really homophobic, but I don't know if this one's homophobic. Damn it. I'm gonna say pitiful because that one sounds really homophobic and I don't want to be homophobic because I'm not. I know, right? I mean, really, what an awful pitiful scene. I'm not saying he didn't have the right to say those things. Of course he did. That is his prerogative. And sure, she was a bad wife. But still, even if he had the right, that is a shitty way to treat her. Yay! I chose the side that was the good side. Good. Good. He should have been a better man than that. Just, really, what a pathetic scene. Just absolutely pathetic. He should have been ashamed, not laughing. Just no sense of shame. I'm glad you think so too. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. I chose the good side, I think. It seemed like it. It's so unfair. Why couldn't you have been born a man instead? Sure, you'd lose your beauty and the gentleness I love about you, but at least you'd be able to do something. And saying men would be jealous instead of thinking of you as completely unthreatening. I just know you want to be able to stand up for me, and it's killing me to see that you're powerless to. Right now, he's happy to keep me around. You know, it gets him off to have something to hold over my head. I had no idea you were so lustful that you'd even settle for a woman, he says. What's that like? The worst part? I know that the only way to keep seeing you is to play along. Oh, well, you know, for a girl my age, I respond and press my hands against my face to look like I'm embarrassed. It's just playing. It's not the same without, you know. I trail off because he thinks it's so cute when I'm too ashamed to say the word cock. Poor girl, he says as he roughly gropes me, and I force out all those soft moans and gasps to make him think that he's really making me happy. And I say, awful things, love. I say such awful things about you, it kills me. It just kills me. And then I beg just to see more of you. I don't know what leaves a worse taste in my mouth, him or those words. What else can I do? I'm sorry, Sojin. I know the last time I talked with you, all I did was cry. Thanks for not asking. It was just so hard to hold it all in while smiling cutely for your husband. We have the worst fate ever, don't we? Okay, yeah, that's disgusting. Saying things like that? Ugh, they taught her letters. She could write that? That's why a smart man stays the hell away from whores. Deception is just what they do. Well, that's women in general, I guess, now that I think about it. Still, I bet if he'd read what she'd written there, he'd never want to sleep with her. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. I don't even know how to respond to that. I just think it's so sad that they are split up like that and they can't have what they want. Like, that's sad. The last time we spoke, I poured wine for you rather than the usual tea. It seemed as though you needed it. I held you tight while you drank, petting your hair and wiping every tear to drop from those deep, sad eyes. He's going to get bored eventually, you had said, and though I tried to comfort you, we both knew it to be true. I could try pressuring him to buy you, I had offered. It was our only option, really. If he didn't, you'd simply return to the service of the government, to be rented out to who knows who, and we would never meet again. Thanks, you said. Do you think he'll listen? You asked. I wished nothing more than to be able to lie to you, to say that of course I did, that it would be all right. No, I said. I couldn't. We sat for a long time in silence. Finally, I said, even that would be worse than you deserve. He owns me, and see how I'm treated? I wish you could have far better. Sorry, you said. Please, please don't be. All of this is my fault. If I had just been a good wife and left well alone, all this heartbreak could have been avoided, I said, trying to calm you, but you only cried more. When you had no more tears left, you spoke again. What about the other courtesan he bought, the real mother of Min-hee? What if he blackmailed him? If only. I would do it gladly for you, but the royal family knows already. I shot off my mouth in front of Mute once without thinking, and soon enough, it was my own fault, too. Oh, you said. What if I gave him a son, you suggested, even though I knew how appalling the thought was to you, and I couldn't help but laugh when I thought of why it would never work. Oh, Hannah, 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 I said. Do you think the reason I've never gotten pregnant was for lack of trying? I stroked your cheek. In the months you've been with him, has your period been disrupted even once? No, you said as you realized what I was saying. It would never work. As tears fell from your eyes once more, you started to laugh too. I figured it was just, you know, all chance. I shook my head. No, child, in the first year of marriage that is chance, I said, laughing sadly. Whether he is too proud or too stupid to realize, I know not, but 1 child in 11 years of marriage? That is not chance. That is an impotent man raising someone else's daughter. You looked at me, realizing the plan was doomed. There aren't any real men in this house, are there? You said finally. We laughed and laughed. Your future is so sadly uncertain. Well, there you have it. That's it for the scandalous and sordid story of the noble wife Sojin and her husband's whore. I keep going back and forth on how to feel about the whole thing. On the one hand, I feel pretty bad for Sojin. It should have never had to sink to that for her. On the other hand, well, it's not like she didn't still make her decisions for herself. It'd be wrong to just cover it up, right? I respect her, but at the end of the day, she still did do unspeakable things with a whore. I'm just kinda conflicted, especially now that she's long gone. Well, anyway, so what'd you think of all that? I don't want to say it was hot, because, like, that makes it sound so sexualized, and that their partnership wasn't love, and it wasn't good, and it wasn't and that it's a product or something. But I don't want to say that it was awful, just in case that sounds homophobic, and like the whole thing is just sad, and what if it comes out in a homophobic way by saying it was awful, but it comes out as but it comes out as like porn if I say it was hot, but confliction. I'll say the whole situation was awful, because that's a terrible situation to be in, where you can't be with your lover. I know, right? No matter how you look at it, that's true for sure. Watching a good woman fall like that, well, you get the idea, I'm sure. Anyway, that's all what I want you to keep in mind. Stories like that, even the messed up ones. There's a reason why the last one dates to the year 322. It's not that their affair came to a conclusion, it's that they just both died. So yeah, even if it is one hell of a story, it's one that ended completely abruptly. Just remember that, alright? Man. I don't want to say that she sunk to that level, because there's no way that she could have. She just wasn't interested in men. She liked women. And what's wrong with that? But it's an awful situation to be in, because you can't be with your lover. And just... I'm sympathetic to her and all, I really am, but... Look, I still had to tell my mistress all about it. I couldn't just hide that. And frankly, I don't think she should have been gossiping about it, not least of all to a whore. Doing unspeakable things to her, well, that's messed up. But it only affects herself. But telling the whore about her husband's failings? That's just reckless, that could harm the whole family. Well, not that the family needed any help cementing its ruin at that point. But it's the principle of the thing. It's still wrong. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. Well, if his semen wasn't, doing well, you can't just ignore that. And on that note, I think I'm going to end today's episode, because my throat is starting to really protest, and I don't know exactly how long I've been at this, but probably longer than I intended. But there you have it, guys. This story not only touches upon the equality issues between males and females, but it also touches upon the LGBT community, because people should be able to love who they want to love. And yeah, have a good day, guys, or whatever time of day it is. This is Micah, signing off.